All right, welcome in the Awesemo Fantasy Football Show on the Awesemo Fantasy Football Channel. A lot to get into today as we have been soliciting, as you can see, already following us on Twitter at Lofty_D, the one who initiated all of the solicitation to get every one of your NFL Underdog best ball drafts, wherever you may be drafting season long. We want to make sure that you have the ability to run it by us. Now, I was never great in high school, college. My GPA was so enough to get out of Gettysburg at the very least. So I don't know if I'm in the position to grade. That's why we bring in the doctor, Ben Rasa, Lofty as well, the two experts here with the red pen. And from what I'm told, Lofty doesn't just have like one of those little pens, Ben. Lofty has one of these like gigantic thick markers that he's going to X out everybody's draft and make sure that they know exactly what they did wrong, maybe a little what they did right.
You had me pegged up until you said marker, but go play that tape back.
Yeah.
Anyway, hey, at least you finished college, Eytan. You know,
well,
that's a plus. I dropped out with like 2 classes left.
That's fine. You're probably doing better off than me anyway. So.
I don't know about that, but you know, follow your passion, right, Ben?
Yeah, that's it. And your passion is grading people's fantasy football lineup. So we're in the right place, no doubt about it. I'm excited. We had our draft here at Awesemo last night, Lofty. It was a fun time. We made our teams, and it kind of spurred on. You know, I know a lot of people are doing that, and there's always a discussion of leading up to the draft, who should I get? But then how did I do? What went right? And I'm excited to dive into some of the lineups. We had some great responses on Twitter today.
A lot. You guys in the A-League. So this was the A-League draft. I'm in like, I don't even know if I'm in a relegated league.
Yeah, you're in the... I'm in the relegation here.
Exactly right. Like we have people that work on staff here that are not in a league. Let's create a league for them. I'm the sympathy league here. I haven't even drafted yet.
Well, I mean, you're kind of new to Awesemo. You put in a good performance, and then you know, we'll get Blaine out of the A team or something like that.
I'm not coming for anybody's spot. I sure as hell I'm not coming for anybody's job, so I can't come for anybody's spot on a draft position by any means. Now, Awesemo here, as you know, Underdog is our sponsor today, so take advantage of that. If you haven't already, we keep telling you it is the place to go for best ball drafts. Over $1 million to number first place on that big one. The puppies are in there as well, so you can get in a bunch of different levels of best ball drafts. Just use our promo code Awesemo, and you will match that $25. Free $25. That's it. All you have to do is use our promo code Awesemo. I know Ben is all fired up. Betting You is up and running here. College football, clean slate, after clean slate here for Rasa. So make sure you're following, downloading, wherever you get your podcast. He and Matt have you covered each and every week. So this is what we've done, right? And Lofty started it all. We got a ton. I want to be somewhat like hyperbolic and say we got 1 million responses, but I think that's probably accurate, that we got somewhere in like the 900,000 amount of responses from people that want their drafts graded. And this is what we're focusing on today, is just looking back and trying to take advantage of people here who have been following, who have been liking and subscribing to the Awesemo Fantasy Football channel, as well as the Awesemo channel and the Awesemo Odds channel. So where to begin, gentlemen? We have a bunch already loaded up. We see people in the chat here actively copying and pasting their names as well. Chris is in the house producing, so he's created a couple of slides. News God has ensured us that he has a draft for us to grade, and I think that there was a little pressure put on Dave as well to make sure that we get this, right?
Let's do it, man. Wherever Chris wants to start, I'm good with it. Follow his lead. Throw them up on the screen. If you have some good ones in chat, throw them in there as well. And if we can't get to them, obviously there's enough people where in chat you want to respond to that too. That helps. But look, here's the thing, guys. If we sugarcoat it, it's just going to be a shitty show. It's not going to be fun. And we're not going to do them any favors when they go into the season thinking, man, this is looking good. I feel great. They told me everything's golden. And then you realize it's just a trash team. So I think you got, I'm not saying be brutal, but honest, just honest. That's all I ask for.
Brutally honest. That's what you're going
brutally
for.
Honest.
Okay, yeah, you can combine those terms. That's a real term. Brutally honest.
Yes, it is.
I think
sounds like a teacher, doesn't he, Ben?
Yeah.
I'm giving you an F for your own good here.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, sure.
I mean, listen, we had responses that right off the bat, there was definitely some initial thoughts of some people, and it's important to put it in context. We were talking before the show. Some people submitted, say, dynasty or things like that, keeper leagues, and they're really, really good teams. And then other people, are obviously just drafting for this year. So we're gonna do our best here. I'm really excited for this though. This is a different type of show, one I've never done before.
Yeah, and one more thing too. If let's just say you get a D or an F, first of all, who are we, right? But second of all, what I would say is, don't just assume you're going to lose the league. Try and make some trades, make some moves on the waiver. There are some teams that I've seen that have drafted poorly, or they've dealt with injuries or suspensions before the season even begins, and end up having a great year because they're good at streaming. They understand that. Ben, you weren't on the show yesterday. We missed you on the A-League live stream. I know you were drafting, but I talked a ton just about how important streaming is to putting yourself in a spot where you can win championships, even if certain position might not be the best, because each week you can pull somebody off the waiver in a good matchup and then drop them for another one the following week.
No doubt. I mean, having a good draft is just the first piece of the puzzle in winning a league. You can set yourself up to be in an advantageous position, but that's why we're going to be providing content all year, because no matter how good your team is, if you're missing things, you will get caught. And if you're behind the 8-ball, well, then you got to be extra sharp, and we're going to provide that content all year so you can play catch up if you have to.
All right, let's look at the first one that we have on board here. And again, we'll continue to solicit what you have in there. It's a little more difficult if you're in the chat putting like 50 names with commas separated to put that on the screen. So if you have screenshots, or if you want to put it out in a response to the tweet initially at Lofty_D, at JazzRazDFS, at Shander Show for me, we'll do our best to get it to Chris so that the screen, as you can see, caps can be up there. That's much easier to digest than 20 or 30 names, especially with the round after that. So let's start with Dan. All right. And he says Max Homa the shit out of this. And you can start to look at where he is, where he drafted as well, and even the bench that we have for him. So let's look at this, right? Luffy, let's start with you and Ben as well. And we'll kind of just glance over this first draft here by Dan. What jumps out at you? What's the first thing that jumps out at you about this squad here?
Pure shit. F-. No, I'm kidding. This is
you
actually
must know him.
I didn't even pick this one. It was actually Chris that picked this. This is my boy. This guy was in my wedding. So just absolute garbage. No, he knows what he's doing. I would say this much though. I look at the starting line. I love Dalvin. I'm not a huge Swift truther, but then I go and I look at the bench and like that, he's got Sanders in the flex, which I love Sanders in the 5th or 6th round. Thomas, obviously, if he comes back after the first handful of weeks, I'm all about it. And this is why we talked about this on the show yesterday. Even Alex Awesemo said after the draft, he regretted taking Thomas because Nolan set up a league that had 4 bench spots. In a spot like that, it's really tough to draft Michael Thomas in the 7th or 8th round. He's got 8 bench spots? Perfect place to draft Michael Thomas. And you've got Hurts as a backup quarterback. You have 8 bench spots. Why not draft a second quarterback? Marvin Jones, I like a lot in Jacksonville. Antonio Brown, Jamar Chase. These guys are on his bench. And even Will Fuller. A little bit weak at running back, although I think Connor and Drake could be great late round picks. All in all, and I'm not just saying this, I would love to shit all over his team, right? I would love to. But I think it's a really good team. I do.
Yeah, first thing that I thought was, and I had no idea this was your friend. I was going to say he looks like a Birds fan. He's got some Eagles in there, no doubt about it.
He doesn't draft homerish though, but in this case, definitely some Eagles. Yeah,
debater. Yeah, Goddard, Sanders, Hurts. Yeah, my first thoughts were kind of with you. I clearly like the receivers. He's got a lot of high upside guys, which really help take the burden off of Michael Thomas. You're not going to be reliant on him. You can spell him till he's ready to go with Marvin Jones, AB, Chase, Fuller. Running back, of course, I think is the clear concern. You've got Dalvin. After that, though, I do think it's pretty thin. Swift is someone I go back and forth with just because of the Detroit situation. Like Miles Sanders, Connor and Drake, not the strongest, but the rest of the team looks great. I'm high on Lamar. I got him in our draft, I believe, in one of my drafts recently. I definitely am high on him just because of what he can do with the wheels, of course. So overall, I mean, I'm going to definitely be the easiest grader of the 3 because I'm a nice person. You guys are just brutally honest, as you say. I do like this team right off the get-go, though.
One thing I'll add real quick is, and this is the nature of having Lamar, right, at the quarterback position, is that you're not necessarily beholden to the stack so much with his ability to run the football. So that gave Dan, I imagine, some flexibility, especially on the bench when you're drafting guys with high upside on projected to be bad or decent teams, if it's Chase, if it's Jones, and then you add in Antonio Brown where that ball can go around and there's definitely an opportunity, a path for some pretty big games. Even Will Fuller, as Laufey hinted at in the beginning there, you can start to see these guys get some quality if in fact somebody gets hurt, bye week, etc., and you're not necessarily losing out on a stack because you're down Hollywood or you're down somebody else on Baltimore.
Yeah, and you don't need the stack in redraft leagues anyway. So, it's
this is redraft.
Yeah, this isn't best ball or anything. This is just a redraft league. So I mean, I think you're perfectly fine here. I'd give it, honestly, I think it's a 10-team league though. So that docks it a little bit, right?
Definitely.
So I'd give it a solid B. And I would say the advantage here is that you have only the disadvantage is that you have a ton of good wide receivers, but it's a league where you only start 2 receivers and a bench spot. So if it was 3, I'd like it more. But I think running back, even though I like Sanders, you can start him alongside Dalvin Cook. It's solid, but that would be my one concern. A lot of wide receivers for a league where you only start 2, max 3.
Well, I don't want to start any shit early here, but I would have no problem working in one of those if we looked at the bench wideout in that slot spot over Miles Sanders. But I know if I said that'd get you all heated, and this would be derailed into a Sanders versus Gainwell conversation.
Yeah.
You're shaking yes, see? All right, and I think another thing too, and look, we don't have the ability to necessarily go back and forth with everybody on their drafts, but some of this is looking at where people are taking, right? Like who else could be on the board. So when you say you're not a Swift truther and you're looking at one thing that may jump out, and we'll continue to look here. The more that Chris has, he has another one that we'll pull up as well. I know Emac is already in the house, and I think selfishly Emac is in the chat just waiting for his roster to pop up so that we can grade it. News God, I know, is anxiously waiting as well. But that I think factors into it, which is a little bit of the unknown, Rasa, right? Where it's kind of like we're looking at where a guy is slotted in the roster and thinking if we don't like that pick, one thing that jumps out is, all right, who else was on the board when you selected Swift or you selected player in question?
Oh, no doubt. A lot of things with drafting are questions of situational. You have to kind of audible at the line of scrimmage. You have a plan and someone reaches for a guy that you wanted and it changes the dynamic. But the good thing I like about, examining a full team is you still kind of get a picture, a theme. You can kind of decipher what the person was going for, maybe where their strengths are. And that's what we're really trying to do. As Laufey said, we can point out, all right, love this team. I think running back is the biggest area of concern. Then that person can be really cognizant of, okay, let me see if there's any breaking news, particularly with running backs. Can I be first to market? Is that where I want to, with my waiver wire, pick up someone and probably strengthen that position?
All right, let's move to our next draft here and start to look at some stuff that jumps out. Again, we have the red marker here. And all right, 10-team redraft. And you can see that at the bottom. Bunch of names there. Herbert jumps out right as the quarterback. Ridley in there as well. Bench with Chase, another one on the bench there. And then Burrow as the backup QB. Some backups on the bench.
Well, the problem is it's a 10-team league and Trey Sermon is your number 2. That to me is an issue in a 10-team league. I think in any 10-team league, you should be able to get a strong second running back. Now, granted, I don't know what the league looks like. I don't know if it's, again, a 3-wide receiver league, a 2-wide receiver league. Obviously love McCaffrey. I love Calvin Ridley. Love him. So those are 2 of the best players you're going to get. Love A.J. Brown. Godwin's fine as a flex. Pitts is either going to be incredible or you're going to wish you took Hawkinson in the 6th or Higbee in the 9th. Burrow, Penny, Pollard, Madison. So the problem with this, Ben, you'd probably agree, is if this was more of like a best ball team, it'd be sick because you're giving yourself all of that upside with Penny as a backup, with Pollard as a backup. I'm assuming he's talking about Pollard, and Madison as a backup. But if Trey Sermon is behind Raheem Mostert for a decent part of the season, or even if they're just splitting, I would just feel a lot more comfortable with him as my RB3 and not my RB2. Other than that, I love your receivers and I love McCaffrey.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say, I'll put it like this. If Trey Sermon isn't, what people are thinking, and you mentioned Mostert takes a lot of that, you're really drawing to an injury to Zeke or Cook in some ways, because the guys on your bench, as you mentioned, this is not best ball. They're not going to be able to contribute in a sizable way. You're going to kind of be in a jam there for running back situations in the backfield. What's there to say? Great receivers on this team.
Yeah.
Love that. Kyle Pitts is, of course, a polarizing topic, but I see why you would want to grab him. I have no problem with that. It's just what happens. It's a lot of pressure on Trey Sermon. And of course, you're not going to plan. Listen, McCaffrey, he's set in stone, of course, but what is behind him? You have a lot of guys that are clearly behind other, dominant running backs. And that is obviously the area of concern.
I would have tried to turn like Godwin into Gus Edwards or something, assuming you recently did your draft, because there's enough wide receiver depth late in the draft where I'm fine flexing like an Antonio Brown, or somebody like that.
The one concern that I have here is not drafting Kyle Pitts, but drafting Kyle Pitts into this team where you're already weak outside of McCaffrey, as we mentioned, at running back. And if you're doing that, there should be given compensation, right, to kind of mitigate any damage done at the running back position. There's a lot of upside to Kyle Pitts. And I know from this area, we're rooting for him, but it's also a rookie situation on a team that has other weapons that we know due to Atlanta's circumstances are probably going to be in positions where they're throwing the football. It doesn't automatically lock in, as we talked about Hawkinson even. You don't need to look at this as, oh, you should have taken Travis Kelce. I just wonder if there's so much volatility on how high or low you can get on a week-to-week basis for Pitts that he's looked at as a savior or maybe some sort of mitigator on this team. And I just don't know if I could put that much pressure on him stepping into the league without seeing anything yet.
It's also just real quick, and I don't think this is a huge deal, but you've
Ridley
got
Pitts on the same team.
Yeah, that's.
I thought. Yeah, I was going.
So it's like if you're gonna go to have Matty Ice and you're gonna really rev it up, I kind of get that, but I don't know if that's the ideal situation. Again, if you could have turned one of those into a running back, I probably feel more comfortable. But again, you're inside. They're going to throw a lot. It's not like they can't coexist. It's just not the most ideal scenario.
I don't know if there's enough touchdown equity there is the problem. Like in Tennessee, there is in a concentrated offense. In Minnesota, there is. Matt Ryan threw a lot last year, over 600 times, but they weren't efficient and they didn't score all that much. So overall, I'd give it a C, solid C.
That's not bad. I expected C minus, something like that.
Yeah.
Look, a lot of people's houses, that's good enough for a Carvel cake, a C or C minus. So you could be feeling pretty good about it. All right, hit the like button if you haven't, as News God is reminding you on the chat. And speaking of which, we have News God's draft here from the 11th spot, full point PPR. And I noticed that it's yourself and the great Jazz Raz. So look, News God knows me enough I'm just here. I'm just a vessel to communicate what we're talking about.
Come on, News God. No respect.
That's fine. I need to earn it. He'll let you know that I need to earn it.
I was watching Eytan this morning on the what is it, Good Day Philadelphia,
I
right?
saw that.
And I'm watching. My wife always has it on in the morning. They actually say people that watch local news over like actual news are dumber people. So
no, it's the most watched show in the morning in the entire city, Luffy. So she's not alone.
I married a dummy, is what I'm saying. I'm kidding. Love you, babe. Anyway, I turn it on and there's Eytan. I'm like, oh, look at this. And then Mike Jarek shows a dumpster floating down a flooded ravine and said, this is Ben Simmons leaving Philadelphia. That guy's totally irreverent. But anyway, besides the point, Eytan's a fixture in the Philadelphia area.
Look, I'm just happy to be here. Awesemo, of course. All right, let's look at the News God draft here. Check that clip out when you have time. But we have so much content here today on all three channels that you probably won't. Let's look at the draft, though. 11th spot. And again, the full PPR draft that News God is in. Couple of things jump out. Look, A-Rod at the quarterback. I don't know when this draft was, if it was centering around his retirement or Rodgers is back. So that's always something that's going to stand out, I think. And he's just poised with this even bigger chip on his shoulder. You have some strong play there and some big potential from just receptions to scoring at the wide receiver position. The one thing that kind of jumps out, and it's not a negative by any means, but your second running back is splitting most likely in the 30 percentile, I would imagine, 35 percentile carries in Kareem Hunt. So you may be looking at working in your backup a little bit more, having Kareem Hunt as your RB2. But nothing on the surface, I think, that would have me believe this is a struggling squad.
So when you have Travis Kelce and you draft him in the first, unless you're just drafting with idiots, and it doesn't appear that he was, you're always going to run into a situation where one of your spots is kind of weak, right? So it could be your RB2, it could be your wide receiver 3 spot. That's going to happen. And I think Kareem Hunt is a fine contingency plan, just given that the Browns ran 30 plus times per game last year, and he's actually pretty talented. You guys know how much I love Nick Chubb, but I think Kareem Hunt's fine. Other than that, Claypool, I'm a big fan of Claypool. Are there some concerns just that the passing volume could be down a little bit? Sure. But overall, I'd say a solid
B minus.
I was going to say B minus, but I want to go to B because Travis Kelce is just such a game changer that at such a weak position that has so few good options that it kind of pushes it into solid B territory for me.
I do like that.
No, actually, that's not true. That's not true. Sanders and Hunt being your RB1s and RB2s, probably a C. I missed that. C+.
Wow.
A C+. I love Sanders, but I've told you guys, I like Sanders as my RB3 or my RB2. I'm concerned about him as my RB1.
The thing I like about this team, though, is the weakest. It's struck. The players are the players. I like the way it's structured in the sense that when you have a position that you're kind of weak at, on the bench here, there are 3 running backs, and that helps because all it takes is one of them to emerge. You want to kind of open up your lotto tickets at your weakest position. You have Travis Kelce. He's going to be a cornerstone of your tight end. You need him. If he goes down or something, you're dead anyway. So I like that because clearly Sanders, Kareem Hunt stands out as the weakest position there. The receivers are solid. You're going to need Connors, Singletary, David Johnson, one of them to probably step up and do their part late in the season. Because if you get that, as Laffy said, I can't echo that enough. You're going to be the opportunity cost of drafting Travis Kelce is just naturally going to hurt another position because you're going to pick up extra points at the tight end that you're hoping that no one else can get. Love
Pittman, though, and I love Aguilar as the last pick in the draft because everyone sleeps. Everyone's looking at just Jacoby Myers, but it could be Nelson Aguilar that ends up having a decent season if Mac Jones is good.
No, I love Aguilar at that spot. And this is like the poor man's version of what you're laying out with Miles Sanders, where if you're not relying on a week-to-week basis of Aguilar being your wide receiver 2 or 3, depending on the league, and you can work him in depending on what's happening throughout, knowing and giving yourself an opportunity, right? Because you have better guys starting to see what Mac Jones can be. I love the deep threat. I love the ability for what we saw in Vegas, not here in Philadelphia, of course, for Aguilar to be a big part of that offense, assuming that Mac Jones continues this trajectory. So that's the one that I think jumped out the most on the bench for me. So I'll meet you halfway and say B minus, but I think that this is a workable squad here in his league.
That's a dangerous team. I think I like that team a little better than you guys. Aaron Rodgers is my preferred quarterback this year. That's obviously a very rock solid pick. So if you can get any production of one of those lotto ticket running backs, everything else seems pretty rock solid. And I'm also, with you. Pittman Truther, boys for a big year in Indy.
All right, let's move on here. And we have more, of course, that you have thrown us, including, and look, you're going to get credit right away. This is like the 200 points you got just for filling out your name correctly in the SATs. You're going to get a half grade bump from me simply taking the time to fill out old school handwritten your lineup. Now that could bump you up from an F to a D minus, but still you could get bumped up a half a grade. Let's look.
Eytan, let's be honest here. If you're writing your teams by hand, you've buried bodies in your backyard. I mean,
I don't want to get on that person's bad side.
What, Ben?
Yeah, ransom. Like this person clearly has had some practice with ransom notes.
Yeah,
like,
he's taping
like that.
He's cutting and taping People magazine numbers or letters and putting them in your mailbox. I have your dog.
Can you write? Maybe this is I can't write anymore. Literally, my handwriting is crossed over to illegible.
Yeah, mine is shit.
It's like I'm very jealous of this person being serious that they can write where you can
great handwriting, by the way.
Fantastic.
But that's what scares me.
If we were grading handwriting, A+ squad.
It's like American Psycho. everything's great on the surface, fantastic handwriting, just everything on the appearance is fantastic, but behind closed doors, shit gets ugly. Anyway, love the team.
I love it. Yeah, let's look at this.
Love the team.
Devontae Adams in the third round, I think, is going to be major there, especially depending on when this was drafted. There was a lot of concern about what was going on. Hawkinson jumps out as well. To get Kareem Hunt in the 8th round, we talked about that as far as, a backup that you can rely on. Carson and Elliott are the two starters. And look, I love the bounce back for Ezekiel Elliott this year, especially getting him back-to-back like that. So this jumps out. Tannehill as your starting quarterback. We know the boom potential down there, especially with the addition of Julio Jones. Looks like a pretty strong squad. We don't know what's going on, as mentioned, with Myers and the QB situation in New England. Similar as far as soon as Andy Dalton's ass gets out of there in Chicago, Mooney's probably going to jump up too. Not a bad squad on the surface by any means. I'm inclined to go a heavy B, maybe B+ here.
A+++++++. Wow,
from Lofty. That's like
well, hold on. It's a keeper league, though. Let's keep that in mind. Yeah. It's a keeper league. He kept some, but I don't care. This dude has built and drafted an amazing team. Chubb Elliott is the 1-2. Adams, A.J. Brown as your 1-2 receivers. Chris Carson as your RB3. Deontay Johnson as your wide receiver 3. Hawkinson, Kareem Hunt, Raheem Mostert. This is – I know it's a keeper league. I understand that, but still, it doesn't mean you're always going to have good teams. This is as good a team as you could ask for going into any draft, especially as if this is a 12-team league.
Yeah, if it's a 12-team league, no doubt about it. I mean, the depth at running back is just ridiculous on this team. Everything checks out. Quarterback, not ideal, but as we always talk about, that's the position where the drop-off is so minimal from even the top to the bottom. If you have a middling QB, you're going to be just fine. So I get it. Obviously, we do have to keep it in some context. Keeper leagues are different, but this person did a fantastic job of structuring it correctly and obviously hitting on some of these guys, so that they could get a team like this. Because if you're just doing a straight redraft league, it's hard to imagine that could happen.
Do we know the keepers at all? Not that it's necessary, but just you mentioned it was a keeper league. So
yeah, I asked Chris for the tweet because I actually was talking to this guy in there, and he told me that it was a keeper league and told me who his keepers were. And I thought he said it was a 12-team league. I can't tell. But when it comes to keeper leagues, if you make the right moves, sure. But yeah, just an absolutely crazy good team. Based on league size, of course, but you're probably winning stuff this year.
Look, Rasa, what was your grade one more time? Because Lofty got it A+++. Like he added extra stickers. Smiley faces and all on that.
If everything checks out and we don't know those answers, but if it's a pretty standard sized league and whatnot, you have to go with an A because that's as sound of a team as you're going to find. So very solid. Again, it's a different type of analysis because it's a keeper league, but I would be more than content. I know my keeper league teams, they don't look like that. That's for sure. I think I still have Darius Geis. I probably should do something with him. That's neither here nor there.
Awesome. All right. Well, we keep it.
Yeah, I need to do an update to our Dynasty League, Luffy. I got guys that've been out of the league for like 3 years.
Dude, I don't have a quarterback on that team. It's a super flex league. I've just completely neglected. I not going to be good.
Yeah. Every year I just send Nolan money for reasons unknown just to stay in that league. I don't know why I'm even in it, but that's neither.
His keepers were A.J. Brown. I don't know I'm not seeing the other one. Anyway,
no, that's fine though.
No, top 3 are keepers: Chubb, Elliott, Adams, and then he drafted Brown in the first. It's a 10-team PPR league.
Okay,
so
got it. That's pretty good. That bumps it up.
It's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, you're always going to get credit here for taking the time and handwriting something out. All right, so we keep it moving here, and again, we'll do our best as far as people continuing to solicit and put up there on the chat for any other rosters or drafts that have been completed from keepers to best ball and beyond. Let's move on now as we get our next draft up here. And this is a 12-team half PPR. Mooney's men. Now, we haven't graded any names of teams because I don't think we've got up until today, right now, this most recent squad, a name to it. But I like Mooney's men. I'll give it a C+.
What's
Maybe
Mooney's men mean?
Well, I imagine that's Mooney out in Chicago, right?
Right. I wasn't sure if it's like a movie or a Broadway show that I've never seen.
Maybe it's the name of an NFT he's trying to shoot to the moon.
It could be. Could be. What do you think, Ben?
About the name?
No, about the team.
You're here to grade teams, not stupid irreverent bullshit.
All right, let's take a look here. We got Baker, Mark Andrews. So, yeah, I mean, this is
Dylan
one
Taylor.
Yeah, good. I like the combo there. I'm not super high on Josh Jacobs, I'll be honest, but he's certainly serviceable. No doubt about that. I like Andrews at tight end. Hawkinson is where I was trying to go in that same range. The depth at wide receiver, I like those guys on the bench. Juju, I could see having a bounce back year. AB, of course, is someone Lofty's talked about in our previous videos. He had a stretch last year where he was absolutely fantastic. Mooney, I expect to take a step. It can't be much worse in Chicago with the quarterback play. Solid squad. This reminds me of a team that we kind of graded just before where it's just serviceable, looks right, solid. I don't see a glaring weakness, and that's something that I like.
I do.
What, quarterback?
Look how many running backs are on his roster on a 4-player bench league. He has 3 total running backs, and his bench player is a backup.
Yeah, but he's got 2 really good running backs at least. That helps.
Taylor, I just don't love that they brought in Kenyon Drake like that. Or sorry, Jacobs.
Jacobs, right.
Yeah.
And they made another move too.
I mean, I don't care about quarterback. Shit, I would probably, if Baker's my quarterback, I'd probably be streaming each week. There's no way I want to go through the entire season with Baker Mayfield as my quarterback. And I don't think you have to. I don't really care who your quarterback is. But Taylor, Jacobs, I love Taylor. Jacobs is fine. It's a half-point PPR league, though, and you basically have 0 PPR value out of either of your running backs or A.J. Dillon. So there's just no PPR value that you're getting out of those. That's a bit of a concern to me. None of these guys are particularly high volume receivers outside of Anderson, but now McCaffrey's back. So I give it a C-.
Yeah, the bench too. You don't really.
I love the bench.
But I'm saying, like, compared to what you have as far as not having high volume, there's not really a pivot right there where you don't have to deal with share, like some sort of, if it's just looks like that we talked about with Brown, same thing with Smith-Schuster, there are going to be other guys that are going to get the ball regardless of what's happening. So it's not like even on a bye that you can replace that. Look, Cooper, I think a lot of this could just go on Cooper. A guy like that where you have some givens with what we know with Hill. You mentioned Anderson as well, despite having McCaffrey back. So somebody like Cooper, who again is going to deal with other guys around him getting the ball and getting looks. But if he can jump out and play above expectations, that might be the difference. But yeah, I think it's more of a C+ draft here for me.
The thing though about this team, it may not be, perfect right now. It's got a lot of, I feel like, flexibility in terms of what you can do. What we were talking about at the beginning of the show, the draft is just one part. I like this in the sense with these wide receivers, you might have some serious trade value early in the year where if you see, okay, I need to kind of make a couple changes, you're going to have some options to do that. So this is a team, it's certainly not to me like a throwaway where it's like, oh God, tear it down style. Maybe you try to work the rosters, make a trade, upgrade, and exchange it for a running back that's going to see a little more volume on your bench.
I agree. And he got Mark Andrews, who I think is fine. He's one of the top 5 or 6 tight ends. What the only thing that bothers me though is people if you're not aware of what the settings are in your league, it's going to crush you. Like half PPR, even half PPR, I'm looking for guys that can catch passes. Not all of them, of course. You're still taking Derrick Henry early. Who cares? But another thing is you look at the roster construction or the roster settings. Again, it's a spot where, yes, you can flex a wide receiver, but you only play 2 of them. You don't play 3, and 3 of your 4 bench players are wide receivers. So, if you have a running back that goes down or just isn't productive, say Josh Jacobs just isn't very good and Kenyon Drake gets more work than we think, you can hit the waiver. I'm not saying it's a wrap, right? Like you can still hit the waiver, but good running backs on the waiver are very difficult to come by. And if A.J. Dillon is your starter every week, that can get tough.
Yeah, that's a big part. You're right. That's a big part of it is kind of that rotation. All right, we continue to move here, and I love how the stream is breaking out their own markers and grading alongside of us. We don't ask much. Make sure you hit that like button, that thumbs up button, and you're subscribed to the Awesemo Fantasy Football channel, the Awesemo Odds channel, and the Awesemo channel as well. As NFL, college football are picking up. We have so much content for you from fantasy to betting in between. Just ask that you are part of it with a subscription and make sure that you like everything. And that got a C for the most part that I see on the stream as well. So kind of all in hovering in that area. All right, let's move on now.
Sorry, Eytan, one thing. I would recommend trying to package a couple receivers for a decent RB3. Then you're in business. Like, you know what I mean? If you package Juju and Robbie Anderson, I'd start AJ Brown each week. I don't care. I think he's a great flex. And then you have Mooney who could pop off. If you were to go to someone that, because clearly running back got a little bit weak, someone's got to be deep at running back, real shallow at wide receiver. Try and package like a Juju and an Anderson for shit, man. I would probably go try Gus Edwards for, I don't know. You don't even have to package them, but try to make a trade for an RB3. Gus Edwards, in my opinion, is a legit RB2. I think that could completely change the way that I'm looking at this and could be really good. Because like Ben said, there's a ton of potential.
Well, that's the thing. And just to jump in about that, Rasa, is that you always, we know this, right? Even in the A-League, I'm sure there's somebody that's coming to mind that you think, yeah, if I present this right, I could get over on them. So if you know who you're drafting with, if you know the people in your league, identify the person that you can go and get over on a trade. Start there. Doesn't always work, but start there. Shoot for the moon. Why not? If you have somebody or two that like I think that's a great strategy and one that we should keep in mind moving forward as we see more of these rosters.
And also identify people that are weak at those positions.
Yeah, weak. That's exactly it. It's a two-part. It's a parlay. Right? You're taking the weak-minded general manager who has somebody who's weak at a position, and that's going to pay off plus 350.
That's the other thing, though, with trades. Like, obviously, you want to get the best deal, but sometimes a trade just is mutually beneficial, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? As Luffy's saying, they benefit because they really need one of your receivers. You benefit because they have a surplus of running backs. No one's swindling anyone. It's a nice fit for both of you. So you can find that dynamic within your league.
All right, let's move on now as we continue to roll here. We'll try and get as many as we possibly can before we break here at the top of the hour. We'll be back again next week, Monday, 2:00 Eastern time. And that's when it all starts. That's when we have week 1 start sits. That's when we look at where it all matters, the big money out there. Here's Emac. The A-League, of course, he has to flex that he's in the A-League for everybody else out there. We also
along with this team.
Is there a relegation coming? Lofty is sensing a relegation here.
They drafted 3 quarterbacks and a 4-player bench.
Yes, I can't believe it.
I love to do it. Emac, one of the greatest people on earth. And honestly, there are some, like, if I thought that was Javonte Williams. It's Jamal Williams. I was going to say, if Javonte Williams goes off, you're in great shape. Tyreek Hill, Robert Woods. I love those as 1 and 2s. Waller as the tight end. I love that. It's really, you know what? Maybe I went too far. It's actually not a bad team.
It's actually high variance to me.
Yeah.
The only thing I don't like, and I like David Montgomery, but David Montgomery and Darrell Henderson as my 1s and 2s, like you said, high variance there for sure, because both of them could smash this year. And then with this team, you could win the league, especially with Waller, or both of these guys could highly underwhelm and Sonny Michel gets more work and David Montgomery can't produce like he did in the second half of last season. But honestly, Emac, I don't love the 3 quarterbacks, but I got to say, this is probably solid B- territory for me.
I think this is a team that clearly needs a little work. As Emac just said he auto-drafted last couple picks, but those are quick,
that makes sense.
Quick, easy changes that you can make. The core of this roster, again, volatile. I think there's a real chance a couple of things don't break your way, and this is a lost season. But if it works, it's almost got a best ball element to me where there's some really high variance guys, particularly on the outside with these receivers, but there's no doubt. Even the quarterbacks. I mean, you obviously don't need 3 of them, but I like this team. It's a little different. It doesn't have a theme. It's just very, very high variance. That is definitely the theme for me.
Yeah, the
So do you like it, or is it high variance?
I mean, I think if you're comfortable going with that, that can be effective. If you're, I'll put it like this. I think he has a much higher chance to be relegated than most. But he also has a slightly higher chance to win the league than most. It's one of those type of teams.
Okay.
Here's what I would like. And we don't have screenshots of this because I'm putting both of you here on the spot. And I also know that there comes a ridiculous amount of inherent bias to ask and then get this question answered. But if you look at your respective A-League squads, how much more or less confident are you in finishing ahead of Emac after seeing that and going through it with the red pen? Rasa, I mean, both of you guys drafted right in the same league last night, correct?
Yeah.
We did. I was watching the Ohio State game very intently, so I need to see who's on my team specifically. I know I got Aaron Rodgers. Other than that, it's a little dicey. But again, I went for a very conservative. If you look at my team, I took a lot of guys that I think the range of outcomes is a little more narrow than what Emac did. He has some guys with boom bust potential where I think they could outperform their ADP or be very, very south of it. Where my guys, I thought most of them are kind of drafted where most people expect them to finish.
Chris, can I screen share something real quick? Hold on, I can't see him shaking yes or no.
He's saying yes.
Yeah.
But he doesn't look happy about it.
Uh-oh.
No.
My team actually was kind of volatile too, though, Ben, in terms of wide receivers. But this is, again, what I'm saying. If you're drafting volatile starters at a position, you're always going to be weak at one specific position, unless everyone you're drafting with is dumb. That's just facts.
Yes.
And if that's the case, load up on that weak position on your bench. I'm not saying every bench player, but give yourself outs. Give yourself enough outs where, all right, maybe I got a little weakness here or there, but I'm not too worried about it because all I need is one of these guys to hit. And if that's the case,
bring up your team. Can you do that?
Yeah, I'm doing it right now. Hold on.
I'd love to see the Rasa squad as well.
Me too.
Like,
I'd be very excited to see that
set
squad.
Up a bot? Did Gajeski, like, who drafted it for you?
I had May working the waiver wire for me. She took care of it. No, I was there. I was drafted. I was just I'm a multitasker. What can I say?
Got it.
All right, let me make sure. Okay, this is it. I'm gonna add this to the stream, Chris. Or you want to do it? You can do it. I don't.
There we go.
All right, so
beautiful.
I got Brady pretty late in the draft. My running backs are Derrick Henry and Nick Chubb and Gus Edwards, and then AJ Brown as my stud wide receiver. No, I have no concerns having AJ Brown and Henry on the same team at all. And then T. Higgins, who I think everyone's just drafting Jamar Chase like he's a stud, but I personally think T. Higgins is really damn good. I don't know where Ben is on him as a college guy, but coming in last year as a first pick in the second round. And I'm completely sold on Devonta Smith. I think Devonta Smith is very good. But like I said, if you look down here, Antonio Brown's on my bench. So even if Devonta Smith isn't good, it's not a bad contingency plan. Darnell Mooney, Alexander Madison, Nelson Aguilar. So I went heavy with my 3 RBs and then went heavy bench with my wide receivers because I think that's where I'm weakest. I got Higbee at tight end. I'm okay with it.
Oh, I love Higbee in that spot. Look, we're talking about the same quarterback who made Hawkinson such a valuable piece. We know that he's new over there. The system is a little more complicated, right, than everything he's run in Detroit. It just would make sense that a guy's already shown he's partial to throwing to that position with such a competent guy like Higbee. You mentioned the bench at wide receiver, but in weeks in which you don't realize it, or maybe you're not getting that same level of productivity from a Higgins/Smith, that's where Higbee really jumps in, I think, and you can balance that. Look, I think you're going to be playing a lot of Aguilar this year, too. That's just my prediction.
No chance. No way. Oh, Emac makes a really good point, though. I don't have, and I just made this. See, it's easy to miss things as well. I was pretty drunk doing this last night, but Emac makes a good point. I don't have a lot of receptions from those running backs at all. Now, with Derrick Henry, I don't really care because, he's just absurd. And with Nick Chubb, I don't care that much either because he's also just truly absurd. But, Gus Edwards, you're right, Emac. There's not a lot of pass catching upside, but I don't hate the idea that I have the 2 best pure rushers in the league, which I think mitigates that a little bit. Ben, what do you think? I'll pull yours up too.
Yeah, I mean, you got Chubb on the swing back, and that was something that
I think I got him at 18th.
Yeah, I was
that's
right
great.
next to you in the draft. I was the pick. If you didn't take him, I was going to. So that I don't think it's the ideal situation. But again, you're not going to find, you can't have everything. So yeah, your running backs may not catch a lot of passes, but they're probably going to score a boatload of touchdowns.
That's
Like I
locked
said,
in.
go ahead, bring up my team. I don't know what to expect. We're going to go through this together.
Listen,
What's our grade on Lofty real quick?
I give that a solid B plus.
Okay.
I think that's what I gave myself to. I won't go A territory, but B plus. I think my bench.
Solid.
I think my bench gives it the plus on the B because, I hate navigating this shit. I never have any idea where to find anything.
I was waiting for you to go on the other end and be like,
going?
I think it's an A, but I'll back it off a little bit.
No, I think a B plus is pretty fair. All right, hold on. Let me go to there. Here we go. Sorry, Ben. I not good at
You
navigating.
can go read the news. Click on the team.
Chris's head is exploding right now.
Read the news.
It's just like in Yahoo Finance over here. Rasa, and let's be done with it.
Make sure that Crypto Punks is still up.
Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, look at this team.
DJ Moore, Odell Beckham, Brandon Cooks, Kamara. Of course, you took Joe Mixon.
Of course, and Hawkinson, right?
Yeah.
And look at this team. Very solid.
I don't think it's bad. Oh, you got Russell Gage on the bench.
I like Cooks. We talked about Cooks a lot, that he's going to be in a position to catch a lot of footballs. He's played with some bad quarterbacks. When did you take Beckham?
Pretty, mid-range to
sixth round, because you took him. I was going to take him. I actually ended up going Devontae Smith there, and you took him right after me on the snake back around, going back, going backward.
Yeah, I felt
that question. Yeah.
Like I have 3 running backs that I'm very, very comfortable with, obviously with Kamara, Mixon, and Carson. And then I wanted to mix it up a little with particularly my receivers because I felt like I'm going to need to do something there. I like Hawkinson a lot. That was a guy that was a priority for me in the draft. Got a couple guys on the bench that, again, more of a flyer if something goes wrong. But all in all, I mean, there's always a couple guys you wish you got. I'm really high on Russell Gage this year. I think he's poised for a big year. So I was happy with what happened.
Yeah, I don't hate it at all.
No, me neither. Wait, that's not his squad anymore. Because
now you're just scrolling.
No, now I'm just we're all over.
I'm thinking to myself, when did you take Edmonds? Wait a second.
We're all over the place.
Who is that?
I will say though, you got massive volatility at wide receiver, like massive volatility.
I do, but I'm okay with that. I feel like that's the easiest position to, besides quarterback, of course, which is just a straight streamer. Wide receiver, I feel like you can stabilize if you need to during the year. A lot easier than running back.
I don't disagree with that whatsoever. It's a much easier position to pick up. There's more of them out there.
Yeah, and we just don't know. So, like if I need Gage or Mike Williams to do something great, if I have to go to the wire or I have to package one of my 3 running backs, I feel like I can do that pretty easily.
Yeah, I was going to give it a C because of Beckham in there, but you got him so late. There's some value. So B, I'll give you a full grade up.
Good
on when you got ODB.
Yeah, I'll go solid B as well because I'm worried. It'd be an A if you have one better receiver in there, but I
can't have everything.
A solid B.
We have time for a couple of more here. Let's keep it moving, Chris, and we'll get the next one up to great. So far, so good. Team Fofo right there. Is that like Fofo in the old claim here by Moses
Malone?
Yeah. Or is it just something inside that we won't know? 10-man league. 6th on the draft, full PPR, Beckham on the bench, Gaskin as well. There's some pretty decent we talked about Dylan. There's Gallup as well, who could be a sneaky play on Dallas, depending on what's happening there. So let's start with the starters and start with what you have in front of you. Russell, the quarterback there, and kind of going from what we have available to us, on this team.
Fofo could also be like, I'm strapped with the Fofo.
Yes.
Right?
Oh my goodness. That is a great, I mean, the Mount Rushmores of Fofo are the 44 caliber, right? The Moses Malone claim. And then I don't know, whatever else there would be Fofo. Those are the only 2 that I know.
That's all right. Ben, go ahead. I cut you off talking
about the Mount Rushmore. This is for 2.
It's an old radio bit that I always like to make fun of.
Who is this maybe I'm missing it, or like, who was the first round pick here?
Oh, that's a great question.
Eckler.
At 6?
Gotta be. Oh, wait, at 6.
I don't love that. I like the team, but I don't love that.
Wait a second.
It would have had to have been. There's nobody else that you could take at 6. It's certain.
I mean, if you took the Browns defense at 6, I would respect that, but it would be an automatic F.
Wait a second. If
the
you
Browns
took
defense
the
gonna be
Browns
great.
at 6 and you still ended up with this team, I'd give you a C just on the strength.
Yeah, I would. I want to say I'd kick you out of the league, but I'd actually keep you in it.
Right? Did you start hitting up trades? Like Lottie Divox for 3
check out
times.
this kicker.
Right.
I like the team. I just didn't get that. I was confused at where they anchored.
Okay, well, let's look at this. Let's assume it's either of the running backs, which I can't even begin to think that it would be Gibson taken at 6. If it's Eckler taken at 6, let's just assume that.
It is.
Hey, okay, so let's work on that assumption, right? Eckler was taken at 6, Luffy, and then you have this team. So it's kind of a 2-part reaction. It's, hey, you took Eckler at 6, and then it's also, okay, you took Eckler at 6, but you were still able to put together a team like this that isn't a bunch of bullshit.
I mean, he actually did a pretty good job, even if he overdrafted Eckler. That's the thing. Man, and it's full PPR, so Eckler just super valuable in PPR. It's also a 10-team league, but Beckham, Gaskin, Gallup, Dillon on the bench. It's a very deep bench, and I think you're in pretty good shape here. Especially again, you're only playing 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, a tight end, and a flex. I actually like this team. I just wouldn't play the Browns in week 1. I would stream somebody else against Kansas City.
Yeah, from defense, but that's obviously minor detail. I have no problem with the team. Honestly, pretty sound. 10 teams, obviously, they're always going to look slightly better, these rosters. It's just by product of course, how it's constructed. But I really don't see any glaring weakness. You've got some able running backs on the bench. Beckham on the bench, which could be a luxury. He's someone that could really pay dividends if he's okay. I like it.
Ben, by the end of this show, I just want to hear you brutally honest shit on a team. Just
bring back Lofty's team. Go ahead. If that's what needs to happen, we can do that.
We should bring Nolan's team up since he shit on your haircut earlier.
He did. And Nolan said that he gave himself an F because he was still in best ball mode. So, yeah. But let's get to a couple more people that
absolutely.
are viewers.
Maybe there is one here that Rasa can destroy. This is my buddy here. He's a local, all right, Colin Berger, 12-team league, and he's a golfer, Rasa. So keep that in mind before you just absolutely thrash this squad. Another one there with T. Higgins. Gotta love Chubb as his first-round pick. You can start to look at a little bit more versatility. Kittle, first time we've had him up here on the board as well. So, 9 of 12 is where he was drafted. Just saw that on there on the chat for Berger. What are your thoughts?
Sorry, I mean, my daughter's getting vaccines, and they almost gave her the wrong one that has like 4 in 1. I mean, these fucking people, man, get it together.
Are you do you have that live stream going on your phone as you're doing
dude, I'm so tired of this place. Figure it out. You guys a young infant here, and you can't.
So if you were grading them, you'd give them an F, Luffy?
Yeah, I was gonna say. Never mind. I can't say that. But what are we at? We're at the 12 team.
Let's reset here. Right? We'll bring it back.
Team, though. A lot of guys. You got there's a lot of question marks in this team that I think are going to be answered positively. T. Higgins. Everyone's talking about Jamar Chase. I like T. Higgins. Cooper Kupp not getting a ton of love. I think he's kind of underrated. Kittle, of course, is Kittle. You've got solid running backs. Henderson, of course. Waddle. Again, it's more of a luxury. There's a lot of concerns there that he may never. I hope he's the same at some point because he was electric in college. We'll see there. Ruggs is another burner. What's not to like? I mean, I'm never going to say Brady. Obviously, I don't like him, but he seems like he's getting better somehow.
When you talk about volatility, this to me is like the biggest boom bust lineup out there. This could win your league.
Yep.
If Kittle comes back and dominates. If Kupp returns to his 2019 form, he's got Matthew Stafford at the helm. Of course, you have Henderson on this team as well, so 2 on the same. But if Henderson really does assume that 3-down role, mind you, there's a lot of speculative stuff here. T. Higgins is playing with Tyler Boyd and Jamar Chase, but I like every player on here. It's just all of them in the same team is what makes it a little bit nerve-wracking for me. I love all of these guys individually, and I want all of them. I want shares of all of them throughout best ball and all of the drafts that I'm doing. The only concern is that together with Kupp, Higgins, Kittle, Henderson, Ruggs on the bench, so on and so forth, that has me a little bit nervous. But the upside on this team is monstrous.
I like it. I like the upside. I'll give it a B. He also had 9 through 12, those rounds auto-drafted, because like Laufey and Rasa and so many others, there were other things happening in real life. So he got
at a charity event. Nice. Man of the people.
All right, let's sneak one more in here. Mike Cruz, DJ Mike Cruz in the house. 12-team PPR format. Look at that. A special shout-out to Laufey. He is the true man of the people here. Good luck to you and the Awesemo crew this season. Thank you, Mike. Initial thoughts. There's Brady right there at the top. Any squad that you can work Devontae Adams in, knowing that it's coming second, third round for me, I'm more than okay with that. I think there's just a gigantic year continuing to happen. Harris, we've talked about him as far as the upside there and the push for the running back spot to revive itself. Tanyan is great, I think, as far as where you get him, assuming that he came super deep in this draft. Any thoughts on that? Look, now we have Sermon on the bench, so at least that's a little bit work. And then, to have Devontae Smith in there and Sterling Shepard. Your backup, you talk about volatile and up or down, is Trevor Lawrence. But overall, as we wind down, B- for me.
I like it. He has Devonta Smith and Sermon on the bench. Like, that's just, if you think about it this way, that is going to be the as we said in the streams, Ben, the dagger if those guys pan out, because then you're just loaded from top to bottom. Swift, obviously, and Najee Harris I like Harris. He's going to get work. And DeAndre Swift, I don't know how it's going to look on such a bad team, but having that Trey Sermon back there is very interesting to me. Although you're going to have to hope that Trey Sermon is good, because you only have 4 running backs on this roster, and the 4th one is Sony Michel. So I'd give it a B- as well.
It's a situation, yeah. I think the difference between this team and some of the others potentially is that the guys that we have question marks on, they're more of a luxury. Like, if Trey Sermon doesn't pan out, this team is obviously going to have to do some things a little differently, but it's not a catalyst of one of your starters per se. It's more on the bench side. And that's obviously what you want to do, is build in a nice floor, give yourself some nice upside. So I think they did a nice blend of that. Very, very solid squad. I've been really impressed. No, not just saying this because I say things like this. I really thought the teams we brought up all pretty much, people are just getting better across the board. Sure. A lot of impressive teams.
People are paying attention. Imagine that. You watch shows, you watch the VODs that Laufey puts together, listen to Ben, Matt, so many others that we have on here, and you start to win. You start to look like you know what you're doing. It's amazing how that works. So we appreciate everybody. We'll be back on Monday. We'll probably sneak a couple of more of these in there. So we really thank you for giving us your drafts ahead of time. Make sure you're following on Twitter at Laufey_D, at JazzRazDFS, at Shander Show for me. You are subscribed to all 3 Awesemo channels, the Awesemo Fantasy Football channel, Awesemo Odds, and Awesemo itself. And hit us up with as many likes as you possibly can. We appreciate you. Hit Underdog up as well. Use that promo code Awesemo to match $25. And thank Chris on the way out for producing the show and dealing with all of these moving parts. For Ben, for Dave, for everybody else here at Awesemo, have a great weekend, and we'll see you Monday.
Peace.